could try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me. Looking for change, looking for pain, pulling a mob, pushing a train. I'll never stop, stick to a lane, pick up the pieces and go rearrange. I'll be the best above all the rest, put me to the test and expect nothing less. Your check is I'm chess, what's happening next? Yeah. He got the venom, a tangible weapon, no coming in second. This life is a lesson. He got a new engine from pain, it's a blessing. New focus, no guessing, just bold and obsession. All in his possession, you got their attention. I'll leave an impression and take your redemption. Just kill no discretion. Your mind is a weapon. 11-11, it's time for progression. Oh.
G'day everyone, and welcome back to Starseeds and Patriots of Down Under. For those of you who don't know me, who are just joining us for the first time, I'm Christian, I'm your host, and welcome to be honest, it's actually my first ever going on the record edition of my actual personal story on my channel. I have appeared in the past on another channel where I told my story. And unfortunately, since then, myself and that individual have not been able to speak. And unfortunately, he does not like to remain in communication, let's just say that, and has made some very egregious statements against some very awesome individuals that are making groundbreaking work in this community of amazing people. I won't mention names because that's not what we do here. We won't blow ourselves to this sort of behaviors because we're all about change. And, you know, we have to change. You know, if we're going to change the world, we have to change within ourselves first. So that's all about, you know, what this is. But, you know, this is a beautiful day. I'm proud to be able to sit here and be able to sit and give to you finally a proper presentation of my I'm actually a little bit nervous, so please forgive me because this is my first time actually giving it properly myself without anyone, you know, with anyone behind the scenes with organized questions that they might have. I'm actually just giving it from my perspective from the beginning. We're starting at the beginning with my curious birth and everything else that's followed since then, right up till now. And today we're only going to be covering the first 7 years of my life, right up until I went to Kuma when I was 7 years of age, and I had an experience there as well. But there's many experiences in between that I want to share right up to my present day and age over a 4-part series. I am presently now 50 years of age, and my experiences, well, that I can personally remember, go back as far as when I was 5. The actual physical experiences where I have reductions, but there are other experiences and traumas that I had previously leading up to those experiences and afterwards as well that I wish to share so that you can gain a better perspective as to who I am as a person, as a being, as an individual, as a soul, okay, if you will, as well, because we are all souls, but part of Source, and my journey that I've had, because it's been truly fascinating, to say the least, okay, and doing this video right now is a way of me being able to come out and actually share all of this with you, because, you know, even the traumas as well are good things now, because really when you have done the inner work, there's no longer any need to hold on to any animosity or resentment or anger, all of those things that lead to the dark side, if you will, you know, because, you know, we're all about the light side of the Force here, you know, we're all Jedis, you know, and we're here to do the Source's and creation's work. And that's to bring light and hope and faith to the world and show a different way. So if it means by me going on record and showing you who I am from a very early perspective of my life right up to who I am now and all of what that has happened in between, then so be it. So let's get on with it, everyone, shall we? Okay. All right, well, I'm going to go over to here so I can minimize myself. Now we're going to go and start with my birth, everyone. Now, For everyone that is getting to know me now, or for those of you who already do know me, this is my story going on record. Thank you all for joining me. Now, I was born as Christopher Sinclair in 1973, December 15th. It was a curious birth. I was born at 6:45, I think it was, in the morning. Mum was saying, I have my birth card. And I was born with unusual circumstances surrounding my actual birth. Now, not many children are born with pitch silver hair, blue lips, and porcelain white skin with crystal blue eyes. And open as well from the moment I was born, and very alert, aware of my environment. And as most of you that are joining us that are women that have actually had childbirth as well, you know, most babies' necks aren't capable of holding or supporting their weight from birth straight out of the womb. Most of them have to, you know, develop neck muscles and everything over the next period of a year to be able to support that. But myself, as well as my daughter, after her birth as well, from the moment go, we both had our heads up, looking around, observing the world, people around us. My daughter also, she had the same experience when she was born. There's a lot of experiences that my daughter has had as well. I'd love to share with you over time, permitting that she possibly joins us as well. But if not, I'll have to get her permission to talk about these sorts of things. Maybe she doesn't want these sorts of things out there. So in that respect, I'll, you know, respect her wishes if she says no. But in regards to me, I was born with very similar features to this baby here. Now, I have just a couple of photos of a baby that was born with pitch silver hair, but without the porcelain skin or the blue lips and the crystal blue eyes. Okay, but have a look at these features of this baby, and just showing is that the actual hair of this child is pitch silver. Okay, now this is very similar and reminiscent of my hair when I was a child, when I was born, straight out of the womb. But my eyes were open, and as this child's lips are the normal color of a child that comes out, you know, red, mine were a bluish color, and my skin was porcelain white. Okay, and crystal blue eyes, which were open from the moment go, and I was completely aware of my environment, as I said. Now, there's another view of the child as well from front on. So you can see how the hair is just absolutely pitch silver in the light. Beautiful, isn't it? Yeah, my mother thought so as well. And funnily enough, after she gave birth, funnily enough, she was asked by one of the nurses in the ward, stupid question. Did you dye your son's or bleach your son's hair? In the first 24 hours, you know, that I was born, one of these nurses came in and asked this question. My mum was like, no, you know, how stupid a question is that, she thought. But anyway, nonetheless, you know, she just got on with it. And within a few days, my skin started to acclimatise to the environment, started to look more of a normal, you know, colour. My blue lips also left over time. But the funny thing enough was that I didn't have an abnormal body temperature. I didn't need a humidifier crib or anything like that. I just had a normal bunny rug, like any normal baby, and was in the suite with all the other other babies. You know, so that's the thing. You know, I had a curious birth, no abnormalities whatsoever in the sense of body temperature or anything else. I was completely normal. Responsive in every way, but alert and aware from the moment go. The moment I came out, neck muscles were already there, and I'm looking around just like my daughter was. So very cluey. Onto it from the moment go. That's what Mum said. She goes, "You are onto it from the moment go, the moment you came out." Looking around, and yeah. But moving on, yeah. My mum and dad lived in a. I was born in Blacktown Hospital, first of all. In the state of New South Wales, Australia. And I'm not sure where we lived after that as a baby moved forward, but as I moved forward through, my the first couple of years of my life, I was actually a very difficult child. Mum said. She said that I had a lot of problems in the sense of adjusting to eating to food, not being able to pass, etc., and a lot of problems down below in the sense of being able to pass food. And there was a few times that she can recall, and I actually have a memory of this myself, where in Penrith I was roughly about probably 2 or 3 years of age, where I remember going to the toilet and I passed nothing but blood. And no, I didn't have panda eyes as such. No, I just had trouble. So I wasn't, tampered with as such. Not at that stage, anyway. We'll get to that later. Anyway, what had happened was, I believe now, looking back on it, and from what I've learned about non-physicality and physicality, is that where we are as a non-physical being, because our soul is eternal, is that we don't ingest food at that level of vibration and frequency. We survive on energy. Energy is transferable in every way throughout the universe. It's never dissolved or destroyed. It's just transmutable from one state of matter to another, of vibration and frequency to another. And when I came, I believe now, looking back on it, is that whatever state of being I was beforehand, I did not eat food, and I was having trouble adjusting to physicality and passing food. I didn't have any actual, like the doctor said, there was no actual reason why I was not able to pass food as such, and there was no reasons why I was passing blood. There was no reasons for it. So I don't know what it was. Maybe it was a high acid count. I don't know. Things that maybe were unknown to doctors back then, maybe known now. I can't put it down to. I haven't researched that part of it. Okay, but that's just a guess. Okay, putting it down to that. Okay? But as I said, my mum said that I was a difficult child, and that I had a lot of problems as well, in the sense of adjusting to people, being around different people. I was always the kid that was the last to be played with in the street or in the schoolyard, or picked for a team or whatever. I remember many movies that sitting there watching it going, that was me. Laughing at it now because I've done the work. But also feeling sorry still for that little child inside of me as well, that I was seeing on the screens in these movies as well, thinking, that was me at one stage, and I feel sorry for that kid inside, that they're trying to portray in this movie. So it was easy for me to identify with. But what I'm trying to get at is that if I was playing cricket or whatever, and I was able to play, these are the reasons why I wasn't chosen, is because if I was out on the first bowl or second bowl or something like that, I'd go up to the kid and hit him in the head with a cricket bat. Not a good thing to do. I also was so difficult as such. Little 3-year-old trying to play cricket, a little plastic cricket bat and things, but I'd hit people with a little neighbour's little girl next door, things like that, and little boy next door, I hit him on the legs and things like that, and it's just silly things that kids did that we highly look back now and regret, that we actually do have a sense of sorrow for, sadness to that, because we wish we could go back and do differently. Actually, wish we could go back and talk to those people and say sorry. But that's something but I've done the work on it, and I've intentionally let that go. So it's out there, and I hope that they can actually forgive me for that. I'm sure they have probably even forgotten it. But that's the sort of child I was, and Mum had such difficulty at such point that I'm actually going to go on record with this. I have to, because I've done the work, and it's no longer part of me that I have to hold on to. In a fit of frustration, I guess, because I don't hold it against my mum, what I'm about to reveal to you. I've done the inner work on it, and I've let it go. I love my mum. She's my rock. She has been my best friend, and the one person in this world that has never given up on me. But in my early years, out of her frustration for me because of my difficulties, in a fit of frustration, she unfortunately tried to smother me. Okay? Now, don't get me wrong. My mum is a brilliant, beautiful, wonderful mother. An excellent mum. And I do not, to this day, and I will say this, I do not hold it against her. I love her. If anything, her honesty, coming back, telling me 20, oh, sorry, I won't say 20, 35, nearly 40 years later, she told me recently. Now, remember, I was a 2 or 3 year old kid when this happened. So I had no memory of who it was that did this. I had a memory of the action happening and being smothered and fighting back. That's why I've got such a fightish nature within me that always has to, in a sense, come back to show that I have no fear anymore. You know what I mean? Like things like that. I stand my ground. But I had no memory of who actually did it for a long time. And over time, I actually let go of that stuff and purged it as we move forward and let go of these things. And, you know, I had to make free of myself from this burden that I was feeling, that I knew this is something that happened to me, but I didn't know who it was for that long. And then all of a sudden it was dropped on me, you know, in my 40s, that it was, she said it like straight out. She goes, do you remember that? And I'm like, no, like, wow. I said, lucky for you, Mum, I've actually done quite a lot of work on myself that I can actually look back at it and actually say thank you now. Yeah, thank you. Because for a long while, I held on to that and used that as my animosity to fuel my rage against the world. You know, I had a chip on my shoulder because of that. You know, psychologically speaking, I took it out of everyone for a long time. And I'd let go of that over the years. And then when Mum came out with that, I was like, wow, now I've actually got a face to put to the actual action that happened. And I don't hold that animosity still like I thought I would. Yeah, it was actually a moment of absolute freedom. I felt free completely from the burden instead of taking myself as the victim again, hoping, that inner child that, you thought was still wounded, that might have taken on the action of being the victimized mentality again. You thought you might hold it against them. It wasn't there. And that's proof of the actual inner work. So I'm glad that I actually was able to have that conversation with my mum and not hold that animosity towards her. That's the best part, is using love to overcome that negative low vibration frequency, to look at all the positives that your mum's done instead of that one negative to hold you down. You know what I mean? That's what I mean. And my mum, as I said, she's my rock, the best friend in my life. She's been confidant, everything. She's been my rock, the one person that never gave up. So please, any one of you that might be in my audience listening to this, if you've had issues yourself with your parents where things like unresolved issues or arguments, slaps, fights, or whatever, things that have been said that you wish that had never been said, let go of it while you can. Use love as your internal guide, your inner compass to guide you away from that negative lower vibration frequency, and look at all the positives that they've done and let go of that shit. Because love is the ultimate dynamo that makes the universe go round. Okay? If you can take what I've used myself in any way for yourselves to free yourself from those low vibration frequencies, please, I implore you, please use them. It'll set you free. So let's move on from there. Okay? In 1975, we lived in a house in Sydney, in a place called Price Street, Penrith, I believe it was. Sorry, where's my picture? Oh, there. Anyway, in a place called Price Street, Sydney. Okay, this is our house that we lived in. That's my dad's car in the driveway there. Now, this is 1978. Yeah, so I was about 5 years old at this stage. Yeah, it was about 77, 78. Yeah, 4 to 5 years of age. Okay. Now, curious thing in this time is that my dad was working for Datsun Motor Company at the time, and he I remember bringing home the 180 series Datsun two-door with the target top roof, top sports car. Okay, it was awesome. And anyway, I remember him taking me for a ride with this thing, and it was one of the best rides I'd ever had. 4 or 5 year old kid, and thrust back into the seat as the turbo kicked in. But it was the house that we lived in that was curious, because even as a child, I felt that there was something not quite right about it. I felt that in the sense that there was an energy and of some sort there that I didn't like. And funnily enough, as time went on, living in that house, the first couple of months, few months, I should say, I still remember to this day even the sound my mum made. She had an experience that left a blood-curdling memory from the scream that she made, that I heard from my bedroom, of an experience she had in her bedroom across from mine. And what she described was that she had experienced an entity bed that she woke up to, fully hooded, fully cloaked, full blackness, could not see a face looking in, to the cloak's hood. And just listening to her actual experience and what she had actually experienced, what she described to me, I was able to find photos of this specific sort of entity. And it's what most religious nuts refer to as a watcher, but I believe is some form of jinn, entity, dark force that was there to watch over my mother. This is an actual picture of what she described. I went and looked for it, and I showed my mother this, and she said, that's it. Very similar, but black cloak. You can see the outline of the cloak's hood, the shoulders and everything shimmering in the light, but no face. That's what she described. No matter how hard she looked, she could not see a face. That's what she said. And this thing dematerialized at the moment she actually woke up, sat bolt upright in her bed and screamed at this thing. She screamed so loud that it left a blood-curdling noise and memory that is forever burnt into my cerebral cortex. I swear to God. It just gives me, there you go, there's the chills just there. Just remembering it, it's genetic memory. They're kicking in. It was, I'm going to actually take the screen, sorry. It actually bothers me just looking at it. Big screen of me. But it was such a noise that, it's something that you can never forget. It's like if you were in the forest and you heard Bigfoot, screech, or the Yowie or something like that, or a cryptid or something like that. Something you never forget. And Mum described this, and it was something that I myself have actually experienced in my time when I was in my 20s. I believe it's the same being, came and visited me and stood at the end of my bed, unbeknownst to my wife at the time. I was late 20s, but it came to my bed. And not a nice feeling to see that sort of thing. But because of her familiarity with this thing from my childhood, when I saw what I saw, and my mother had already described this thing in the past, for some reason I had no fear of this thing. I looked straight into that hood, and I looked at you and I was like, I don't fear you. I said, get out of here now. You know what I am. I looked straight down this thing, straight down the bloody barrel, like as if I was holding a gun or two. I just looked straight at it, right into the hood, the face of this hood. I said, get out of here now. I said, you know what I am. I do not fear you. And that moment disappeared like dust. Gone. So curious, I experienced very similar and can describe similarly what my mum experienced from my own experience. It wasn't nice to be able to experience what I considered to be a jinn or being in its presence. It was very, yeah, like you know that you say that you don't fear it, but you have that internal chemical reaction from the brain. And regardless if you might be saying that verbally, and that is all vibration frequency, it's the frequency your body gives off from the chemical reaction that's given from the electrical spark signal sent to your body that it gives off, and that's what it's feeding off. That's called loose energy, that fear. And I did give off that energy, I will admit. That's why it stood around for about probably a good 20 seconds after I sat there and said that, because I knew what it was. I'd already given off the fear, but I had to sit there, intentionally look down this thing's face or whatever it was looking into, to stand my ground, to make sure that I no longer was giving off that frequency, because I didn't want it to feed off me. And I wanted to know that I was in control. I'm the one that's in charge of this journey, this soul. You don't control me. Like Freddie Krueger, you know what I mean? Like you say that, you know, I no longer fear it. You know, I now know what you feed off. You feed off my screams. You know what I mean? So you turn your back on it and you laugh at it. You take away the power. So yeah. Anyway, moving on, you know, as a kid, this sort of thing stays with you for life. So looking back at these things, I can now say that these are all lily pads, stepping stones of my life that have actually led me to where I am and the path that I'm on because of these experiences. You know, now growing up, most kids in 1979 were Star Wars fans. I had already gotten into, you know, Superman by that stage, with Christopher Reeve, Buck Rogers, Battlestar Galactica, all those sorts of things. They were brilliant TV shows. A lot of things we'll touch on as Truth in Plain Sight during my Truth in Plain Sight series when I do them. But Star Wars for me was a massive cornerstone. Yeah, I loved this series in such a way that it just brought beliefs in something greater than myself into my life as a child, and inspired me to believe in the Force, coming later to know as it being Source. But the story of Obi-Wan, Luke Skywalker, I think we can all identify with that as being, you know, within ourselves, is that we all try to be the Luke Skywalker, but we're fighting that inner Darth Vader, you know what I mean? The dark side of us. And so long as we always choose to do like Neo, as he chooses to do so, we choose to do the right thing and ignore that low vibration and frequency like the dark side tries to guide us and lead us into temptation, you know what I mean? So yeah, trying to be the Jedi, if you will, and having, you know, people like Han Solo, you know, the Rebel Alliance fighting, you know, the Empire, you know, always standing for in the light of good. I was heavily influenced by these belief structures at a very young age, and you know, seeing how the Jedi stand for those that are weak and cannot speak and cannot act against those that are oppressing forces, made a massive impact on me. So, you know, seeing this influenced me in ways to follow this path, but along the way, I did get lost. I was influenced by the dark side. I had to go on the hero's journey down to the abyssal, to the darkness, and climb my way back around to the light again. This is what the hero's journey is. Okay, and we all face this fundamental journey. Okay, but by the time I'd actually been influenced by Star Wars, Buck Rogers, Battlestar Galactica, Star Trek, that was another big one for me as well. And you know, when I was a kid as well, Star Trek was big for me. I've been influenced by all these good things, but also at the same time, I was also going to Sunday school, and there's that belief structure of indoctrination system that I feared going, because I knew already, like, for some reason inside me, I didn't want to go to Sunday school, but I'm glad and relieved that I did when I did. Because when I went there, this was unlike any other Sunday school. Now, funnily enough, I was going through pictures online once, just of old paintings, pictures of interactions in ancient times, of ancient Arabian stories where people would talk about those coming, you know, down from the sky and interacting, completely human looking like us and interacting with us. And funnily enough is that we used to have Bible class with very similar books that had photos in them. Now, it wasn't until I was in my late 30s that I discovered all this stuff again and reminded myself by looking at these pictures of what I remembered from my childhood. Now, this particular picture I'm about to show you, I'll turn that Star Wars picture off, is a picture from a particular book that we read back in Sunday school, back when I was about 4 and 5 years of age. Now, as you can see, these guys are distinctly dressed differently from the lady that's inside the tent here and the gentleman that's in front with the red robe. These guys are wearing silver suits, silver long-sleeved, long-legged suits with boots and gloves. Not your typical attire of those from, Arabia, Yemen, Syria, Mesopotamia, Samaria, any of those parts of those regions at that point in time, if these stories are based on truth in any way. And what I distinctly see also in the background, beyond the gentleman who's wearing red, beyond the gentleman's hat, is that you can see a disc, clearly, distinctly just written and drawn on the page. This disc, I believe, is owned by these three gents that are talking to this man. Okay. Now, we've got plenty of stories that we can go back. I'm not going to go over them right now. There's plenty of stories that we've been told in history where lots of these different interactions happen. I'm not going to go into them right now in this particular video. I'll go into those with other stories. I've got plenty of those sorts of things already pre-prepared. Okay, but going to church later on, I'll get to that later, was something that really messed with my head, because going and listening at Sunday school at a very young age and listening to stories about these sorts of things set very, very young within me a very strong truth, belief structure that there's more out there than just this planet. Okay. So, yes, that was one of the biggest things that I really was grateful to be exposed to at a young age. Okay. That Sunday school was a blessing. And funnily enough, is that when I went through these images later on in my 40s, late 30s to early 40s, I came across that particular picture that I just showed you, which was one of the pictures that was in our Sunday school book. That's what triggered a memory. So I look back at that as another stepping stone, lily pad in my journey to getting me to where I am now, and understanding these points in time that I'm supposed to look back on and know full well that this is all part of this journey to unfolding in front of all of you that I'm sharing. So, in 1978, I was 5 years of age by this stage. You can see me there. There you go. I'm just a little young fella. Geez, I forgot how young I was. Geez, I'm a good-looking little kid. What happened? I'm a good-looking man too. But looking at me there, I'm just this young fella, 1978, 5 years of age, and it's Christmas Eve of 1978, and I remember distinctly this specific night, my mum putting myself and my sister to bed with a story around about 7 o'clock, 7:30, and I think it was the Little Red Caboose. That's right. She read the Little Red Caboose for both of us, which was really cool. She always read us a golden book before we went to bed. It was one of Mum's and my sister's and my favourite pastimes as well, going to bed at night. And she read us the Little Red Caboose from our golden book series. I remember going to bed, and I remember laying down, and I remember falling asleep within the first few minutes. And not first few minutes. I was a little bit restless, but I finally got to sleep within about probably 10, 15 minutes. Anyway, I don't know how long I was asleep for, and I was awoken suddenly by the sound of sleigh bells. Yeah, shing, 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 like a sleigh going across the sky, like that story they like to tell about that man with the reindeers. Anyway, being this 5-year-old, believing in Santa, believing in reindeers, believing in him coming down the chimney at that age, you jump up out of your bed expecting to see, hoping to see a glimpse of Santa on Christmas Eve, as any kid would. Okay. So I've jumped up and straight up in my bed. Okay. And as I have, I've pulled down the blinds on the right-hand side of the window. And lo and behold, I see this going across the Blue Mountains. This is a picture that I actually hand drew myself and coloured in from my own memories of me as a child. And I see this red streak, a ball going across the Blue Mountains to the west. And I thought instantly, Santa, you know what I mean? Like, wow. I mean, who wouldn't? Red ball like that, you're thinking all the kids in the Blue Mountains are getting their presents delivered. So I just, instantly believed that it was Santa. But from that moment, I don't remember anything else. Not a thing. I don't remember laying back down. I don't remember closing my blinds. Excuse me. I don't remember going back to sleep. What I do remember is, however, the next morning, coming back, whatever it was that I saw was not Santa, I assure you. And I have this distinct memory as a child that, well, I had a fascination with trucks as a kid. The one thing I couldn't do was pronounce the words T and R, or the letters T and R. And so I couldn't pronounce truck. Okay. So being a kid, my first word basically was, look, Mum, big. Yeah, it's big. Mum? Yeah. And she'd be like, not holding my mouth down, looking around at people saying, oh, I'm so sorry at everyone. I remember it being at the post office in Penrith one day. I saw this big fire truck. And I was like, Mum, look, big. Yeah. And she was like, oh my God. A couple of people laughed, I remember. It was funny. And Mum sitting there holding my mouth saying, oh, I'm so sorry to these people who laughed. And they said, don't worry about it. I thought it was funny. And anyway, I was and I'm still saying it behind her hand. Anyway, the fascination with fire trucks and trucks was there. This is a precursor thing to what happened that particular Christmas Eve. So what I believe has happened is that I have this particular memory flash image in my head of what I consider to be a photograph of a moment that was happening coming back. And this is what I saw that I've hand drawn as well. This is a picture of me in a blow up, floating, flying, red fire truck. Yeah. Floating, flying, blow up, red fire truck. And I remember flying over the rooftops, coming in to where we lived in Penrith from the east. Mind you, the sun was behind us. It was sunrise. Okay. So we're coming in, and I remember my hands weren't attached to the steering wheel as such. They were hovering above it, as you can see in the picture that I've drawn. And also, as you can see, there's no dials, no speedo, no tachometer, no nothing, okay? No pedals on the floor. Just this wheel with my hands floating above it, hovering above it, about probably 2 inches, okay? And I remember as we came into I could see my yard. I remember being instructed, point downwards with the wheel. So I pointed my hands, and the steering wheel, pointed in that direction as well. And the flying red floating red fire truck pointed downwards with the direction in which I pointed the steering wheel. Okay. And as we came in over the fence, and I remember the front wheels touching down, okay, and coming around from the right-hand side of the clothesline, okay, we came around to pull up right next to the back door, okay. Now, as we pulled up to the back door, I remember being in the left-hand side of this thing, as you saw in that picture just then, I'm on the left-hand side. As you know, we have cars in Australia that are on the right-hand side. First big giveaway for me. As a kid, I recognized these things. Now, as I remember as I was flying in, I don't remember looking to my right when that person instructed me to point the steering wheel downwards. I only heard their voice. But as I got out and looked back to the backyard where this blow-up floating red fire truck was situated, parked, if you will, next to my back door in front of the clothesline, this is what I saw. This is hand drawn by me, again, a little grey with extremely long arms. Okay, now I unfortunately did draw this with 5 fingers when I did draw this, but I do know that these specific entities, beings, have 4 fingers. Okay, extremely long appendages, fingers and arms, legs as well, very small, skinny, roughly up to 4 feet tall. Okay, and as you can see, there's no foot pedals, no gauges, no nothing, but him sitting on the right-hand side. So obviously he was sitting there beside me whilst I was flying this thing and instructing me how to fly. And I remember looking back at him, and he slid from where he is there over to in front of the steering wheel and put his hands and placed them above the steering wheel, just like I did. Okay, and proceeded to take off. And he pulled where we were pulled up from where the clothesline was, as you just saw behind in that picture just then, is that he went back up the hill, around the clothesline, back up the hill towards my sand pit, okay, and took off over the fence back towards the sunlight. And I remember watching this thing going back over the fence, going towards the sun, and then disappearing. I remember walking inside. I remember going past the laundry, into the kitchen, down the hallway, and into my bedroom. I remember laying down. I remember going to sleep, and what felt like hours that I'd been asleep was only a couple of minutes, 5 minutes, because I remember hearing my sister, who was only 2.5, 3 at the time, so I was 5. It was 2 years, 10 months between me and my sister. She was up. She was in her cot. She wanted to get out, and Mum and Dad had to get up because it was Christmas Day. Okay, and I got up. It was present time. You know, you can only imagine, you know, the excitement for myself and my sister as kids. And really, at the end of the day, when I had this experience, I just shrugged it off as a dream. Okay, I'm only a 5-year-old kid. I just shrugged it off as a dream. But I remember the dream specifically giving me those details that I just described to you about walking through the laundry, in through the kitchen, around through the, you know, the dining room, and down through the hallway into my bedroom. This was all what I thought was part of a dream sequence that I was experiencing as a child, you know. But lo and behold, looking back on it now, I know what I know, and we'll get to that in a second. But funnily enough, the next morning, with our unwrapping of presents, the first present I was handed, and this is what I call synchronicity as well, is that my first present that I unwrapped was a USS Enterprise from Star Trek. Now, for those of you that are familiar with Star Trek, they are called the Galactic Federation of Planets. Okay, we all know about now the Galactic Federation of Worlds. And at some stage, I'll get to doing a video about that and how we come to understand and know about this actual Galactic Federation of Worlds, and how Gene Roddenberry was able to derive a lot of his information for the script and screen plot for Star Trek back in the 1960s through a set of channeling sessions that he was able to sit in on. I'll cover that in a video at a later date. But here we are, myself as a child, the next morning after, and here I am with my father in picture, as you can see, and I've got this USS Enterprise that you can see here circled, that goes around in a circle on this center base stand, and it's got an adjustable speed mode. okay, where you can see my dad's hand is holding onto, just to the right of the circle. It's got a little speed thing there. You can actually adjust the speed to make it go slow or fast. And for me, looking back on this now, I see this as synchronicity, because to me, this was my first introduction to the Galactic Federation of Worlds. Okay, not the Galactic Federation of Planets from Star Trek, because at this stage, I'd only seen a couple of episodes of Star Trek. It wasn't my forte. I was a Superman kid. I was a Star Wars kid, a Battlestar Galactica kid. Star Trek was more, the teenage and young adult sort of realm. Whereas Star Wars for me at that stage was just everything. But looking back on it now, knowing what I know about Galactic Federation and some of its members and beings that are part of the Galactic Federation, I've come to know that some of these beings are called the Emertha. Okay, and they also are the same beings that were how can you say? I'm pretty sure that they were either in the Roswell, New Mexico crash or the Aztec, New Mexico crash. I'm not sure. There was, on that day of Roswell 1947, there was 9 specific crashes, not just one. There was 9. Okay, so what I'm about to show you is a small video, no sound, of video that I've had to go and track down of these specific beings called the Emertha. Now, as you can see, these beings, their eyelids are definitely blinking. They have very long appendages, fingers, dexterous, only 3 to 4 foot high. Okay. But as you can see, they're very much a real being. Okay. This was declassified information, video footage. Now, I'll quickly just show you another video of them as well that I haven't found, that also contains artwork images from other people around the world that have also had experiences with the Emertha. Okay, now these are the beings that I specifically had my interaction with on Christmas Eve 1978. You can see one there just sitting on a chair with his head's quickly moved as they've taken the exposure. This is supposedly photographic evidence of the ship that crashed in New Mexico, or Aztec, New Mexico. That's a being, one of them dead. Another one of them there. You see the large eye and the nose and mouth there and forehead. Here's some of the artwork that was done by different people around the world, their experiences with them. Yeah, curious. That one kind of gives me a bit of a reminder of Paul, animated movie that came up. It was a very cool movie at the time. But yeah, you can see that all of these people had a very similar experience with a very similar being or group of beings that have obviously come to visit them. Yeah, and these have made a bit of an influence on these people, obviously, to be able to draw them so accurately and show them exactly as I've drawn them from my own experiences, which further really validates and acknowledges each one of our experiences fundamentally as a overall whole. Is that it's not just limited to 1 or 2 people. There's a lot of people. That's just a few examples alone. I mean, I'm sure there's probably hundreds, if not thousands, that have experienced the Emertha throughout their time. They're not a malevolent species, because I mean, if they were malevolent in any way, they would not be part of the Galactic Federation. They are completely benevolent. They are beautiful, beautiful species of being that just exude nothing but love. Yeah, love. Intention from their eyes, when you look into it, is all you feel is love from them. Yeah, I know it sounds crazy, because when you look into blackness, like most people, when they've been indoctrinated to certain belief structures or movies they've been exposed to, looking into blackness of eyes usually, can be referred to, to vampirism, things like that. But looking into these eyes, nothing like that as a child. When I look back at, these memories now, I got nothing like it. All I got was love, intention, wanting to protect, but also teach, to pass on knowledge, a sense of playfulness, but also very profoundly wise and knowledgeable at the same time. So there was a childlike quality about them that, I guess, never got, well, I mean, they've grown up. They've obviously, hundreds, if not thousands of years, some of these beings, some of them, but the childlike quality within always resided and remained. You know what I mean? It wasn't ever squashed or destroyed by these bullshit indoctrination systems of control that we've been under control of, on Earth here. These people have been inspired to believe in themselves and to inspire others and bring others up along the way, and using love as their core intention for everything that they do. That doesn't sound like a malevolent species to me. That sounds like a very benevolent species. And the fact that I had an experience with this being as a 5-year-old, and then be given a USS Enterprise the next morning for a Christmas present, not knowing the significance of that at the time, and then growing roughly 45 years, 40 years. I was roughly 45 when I discovered this, okay, because I'm just turned 50. That's 5 years ago I discovered this. I found the synchronicity. I saw the synchronicity finally between the fact that I was introduced to Star Trek, the USS Enterprise, the Federation, after my first experience, but then looking back on it 40 years later. Can you see the synchronicity in that, and how this specific photo of me with my dad here the next morning with the USS Enterprise has influenced, excuse me, I have a yawn, has influenced me to get to me where I am now, in my understanding of what the world and where the world and we as a civilization are about to head to, and the interactions that we're going to be having with multiple star nations. Okay. I mean, for us to think in any way, shape, or form that we are alone in the universe with the vastness that it is, is absolutely completely naive and stupid. I believe that Da Vinci was trying, as much as I believe Da Vinci was a controlled narrative to some degree, he was genius, but the Vatican had their hooks in him in some way. But what he tried to depict with the man in the wheel fundamentally is that the bipedal human form that stands upright with 5 fingers, 5 toes, able to think and talk and act for itself, is fluent and fundamentally an actual consistent form, if you will, throughout the known 3-dimensional universe, wherever you may go. The human form is consistent, depending on also the species of that planet as well, and its point of evolution as well over millions of years. If you have a bird of some sort, or maybe even a lizard, we know about lizards, they've been formed and evolved into over hundreds of millions of years. So let's say a bird or a lion. They too will grow to be a upright bipedal form that has 5 fingers, 5 toes, able to eat, scratch its bum, think for itself, use logic, reason, rationale, can make choices, okay, learn from its lessons as well, okay, and the ability to evolve. And in Star Trek, I can see lion beings, mantis beings, you name it, it's there. Star Trek, Star Wars, okay, all of these TV shows specifically show Draco, okay, as well. They're all there, all these different species, they're all there for the taking, and we all know about these specific beings that go back to Egypt, Lyra, in Egypt, on Earth here, Lyra star system, the lion beings, that visited Earth that were here, like Qatar and Sekhmet, okay. These are real beings, okay. They weren't depicted in stone for no reason. An artist depicts in stone what they see so they can be everlasting, so that it stands the test of time. Okay. But yeah, it's just fundamentally very synchronistic for me to look back at these things and know that these are all part and parcel of my journey. Okay. Now, just going back quickly to the videos for a second. Now, that little boy that I was as a 5-year-old that had that experience with the Emertha, no knowledge at the time of a movie called Close Encounters of the Third Kind. It wasn't until I was 29, nearly 30 years of age, before I watched that movie. Okay. And when I saw that movie, it blew me away. Blew me away, because the little boy that's in that movie, Barry, that gets taken by the Greys that were coming to visit him, that were benevolent as well. That reminds me of me, because what happened in his room has reminded me, when I saw that movie, it reminded me of other experiences that I had when I woke up in my room at night, later after my first experience on Christmas Eve of 1978. That movie specifically woke up other memories of them coming back to see me and appearing in my room. Okay. We go and play and do things. We go flying. Yeah. Okay. So I'm just going to play a quick video for you to show you, a quick couple of videos, to show you what it was like for me in my bedroom at night from the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which not exactly resembles it at all, but somewhat does resemble in some ways, like the toys. Okay. I didn't have the slapping monkey. Those things scared the crap out of me as a kid. But things like the tank or the plane moving across the floor, lighting up and starting out of nowhere. These things were wind-up toys. Okay, not battery operated back then. Okay, but these things would move on their own. So have a look at this video and just leave your comments below later on and tell me if you've actually had any experiences similar to this yourselves, or anything that I've actually played for you in this video at all. Anything like the Emertha or what I'm about to play. Enjoy. Yeah, so as you can see, some things are not quite the same as my experience. Like I didn't experience the refrigerator being trashed by their curiosity or inquisitiveness. I never had lights on the stairwell because we didn't have a stairwell, but I never had lights in the hallway lead me out or anything like that. But the toys on the floor, the planes, the tanks, I didn't have a tank, but I had cars, cars that were wind up. They moved across the floor like there was no tomorrow, scooting along, powered by themselves for some reason, which in fact they needed to be wound up to move. How can these things move, But yeah, little Barry's experiences are very similar to mine, how he'd be woken up by his toys like that. Now, what I'm about to play for you now is just a small, I think it's 40-second clip from Close Encounters as well. that gives you basically a visual reference from the movie that depicts accurately what I saw to the western skies over the Blue Mountains at 5 years of age on Christmas Eve 1978. What I thought was Santa was what I see in this movie. And remember, people, I didn't discover Close Encounters of the Third Kind until later in life when I watched this. Okay, I was 29 years of age nearly. Okay, so just enjoy this 40-second clip and tell me what you think. So as you can see there, you know, not the ships themselves, the first 4 that came through, but the last one that came up around the mountain, the little red ball, and the way it moves erratically around the mountain as it goes around the curve. That's exactly how I saw it moving when I pulled up the blinds and looked out my window to the western skies. It was moving in an S shape as I depicted in the photo above here. As you can see right here, in an S formation, moving across the sky, which I thought was Santa at the time. Funny enough. So yeah, that's the beautiful part about these things, when you can look back upon it all and have recollection and see that these are all stepping stones, parts of your life that you can see that are leading you to where you are, and have full recollection, actually show it in this format like this. Yeah, it does definitely paint a picture that there is a destination at the end of this road that I am heading to, and all of you that are having your experiences too. There is a destination waiting. I dare say, everyone, it's the same one. Okay, now I'm just going to quickly go through a couple of sets of photos, because we're already pushing an hour now, guys. Okay, now this is a photo here of Penrith, New South Wales, where I used to live. Now we're at the base of the Blue Mountains. For those of you around the world that don't know what the Blue Mountains are, it's where the Three Sisters are. Very famous Indigenous people story of Australia, the Three Sisters Rocks. Okay, and there's a lot of activity in the Blue Mountains, especially in the gorge ranges up there, that are adjacent to the Blue Mountains and the Three Sisters. I do believe there's also a secret base up there that also houses a TR3B 250-foot diameter triangular ship inside the actual mountain. Okay, now as you can see in this photo here, we're also got the Nepean River not far from where I lived. Okay, and this photo here shows you and depicts accurately, look at those two places, Tunnel View Lookout and Portal Lookout. Okay, Portal Lookout. Yeah, not far from where I lived. And that goes, there's been talk apparently that there is a underground maglev within the vicinity of Penrith that has been shut down in the last recent years because of the operations that we all know of that have been happening with the White Hats. But that maglev train did have a line that went directly to the Blue Mountains base, that I believe. Okay, so yeah, that's that photo there. Now we've got this one here. This is actually my photo of my house, of where I lived in Price Street, Penrith, from Google Earth Maps today. Now, as you can see, the house has changed vastly from 1978 and earlier, from when we lived there. It's now got a carport over the driveway, and I'll show you in this next picture. That's my bedroom there. The windows have been changed out. We used to have wind out windows that used to go out like a safari window that used to come out on a chain, like you could wind it out. These windows have been changed out to sliding windows over the last 40 years, I dare say. Okay. This photo here is also our house from above in Google Earth Maps. Now you can see that, you can see the angle of the driveway. It's a slope. Okay. Then there's a flat top where the house is, and then in the backyard, You can see there's a slope that goes up. Now, I used to have a sand pit at the back of that backyard, and I used to sit there and play all the time. Okay, and now if you look just towards the back of that red circular area that I've circled, you'll see there's a little white thing that looks like it has wings on it, okay, hanging and hovering over those sheds at the backyard there. Now, I only just discovered this, okay? Now, that's nothing that's actually in the yard. It looks like some form of anomaly that's there. I can't be sure, and I won't quote it, but that is some form of anomaly, and I find it synchronistic that it's there over my house on Google Earth Maps when I'm taking a photo of it. Not that it's in real time, but whoever filmed or photographed this at the time of uploading these images to Google Earth captured something, I believe, synchronistically that was over my yard that is possibly even still maybe interacting with whatever children is living there with their parents. Excuse me. So interesting, hey? Now we have this photo here of the Blue Mountains. As you can see, that's this is Penrith down here in this area, okay? The Pean River all running through it, okay? Blue Mountains, okay? Now, moving on, just not long after Christmas of that year, my parents divorced, okay? The following year, not long after. And my sister and I were given a choice of where, well, my sister basically didn't get a choice. She was too young. Okay? Mum just said, you know, she's going to take my sister. My dad, however, turned around and said, you know, you're old enough to make your own choice. I was 5 going on 6. Who would you like to go with? Mum. I wanted to go with Mum. Dad made the choice for me. You come with me, sister's going with your mum. Anyway, didn't end up going with Dad. Ended up getting passed off to his mum, my grandmother, who I got to really bond with in such a way that I believe highly she's one of the ones that are watching and guiding me right now from the other side because of what I am and who I am and what I do. And she's been with me this whole time. She's been a very big guiding light in my life. And so I got to live with Nana for a good 6 months, going to Cooma State Primary School. Subsequently, across from the school was the street where my auntie lived. So I was back and forth from my auntie's place, my dad's sister, to my dad's mum's place, my grandmother, who all lived in Cooma. So back and forth every couple of weeks I was living there, but I was still going to the same school, maintaining it. Dad, however, wanted to have a carefree lifestyle, if you will. Won't go into that. Already let it go. No need for anything getting into it. Okay, no need to get into it. But anyway, I was living in Cooma. I was growing my hair out at that stage. It was still snow white, as you can see there in my photo. I've got a Mark IV air conditioning company t-shirt on that my father got me from his company that he worked for. My snowy white hair still remained at this age. I was only 5, going on 6, but still had it. And we lived, as I said, I was back and forth from my nana's place to my auntie's place. And I had a specific experience there where I got to meet my daughter before she was even born. Oh, I actually have left out a part. I do apologize. I actually just looked back at my notes here, and there's actually one more experience that I have that happened before I got to Cooma. So I'm going to go back to that. Okay, now I do apologize, people. That's sorry for jumping ahead like that. I actually missed my bullet point and gone and jumped ahead one. Now there's another specific experience that I had. Now, when I was also 5 years of age, leading up to Christmas. Sorry, so I've obviously jumped ahead too. Missed the bullet point. I had a hernia. Okay, and being open and honest with you, it was on my right testicle, okay, as a 5-year-old boy, leading up to Christmas. Maybe 4.5, I think it was, before I turned 5, just to be specific. Now, I have the specific memory of this being on my right-hand side. Take note of that. I went to hospital very cautiously. I hated hospitals. And I had an experience there that I can only describe as being amazing, nothing short of amazing. Now, since having my experience and then forgetting about it as a young boy growing up to be a teenager, etc., you forget all these things until you hit your adulthood, 30s and things. You start discovering this stuff again and see that other people have these sorts of experiences. And I discovered James Gilliland of Eceti Ranch. For any of you that don't know him, I suggest go over and check out Eceti. I'll be leaving the link in the description below for you. Go and check out Eceti. But I discovered James, and he described for me his experience, which directly matched my experience. And funnily enough, for those of you who've been with me for a while now, who know Whistleblower Bob has had a very similar experience over in New Zealand when he was a child with his tonsils. Okay? Now, getting to this experience is that I went into hospital, as I said, cautiously, hated hospital, didn't want to be in it. And I had my operation. I'd come out. I'd gotten over my anesthetic, which made me sick. Okay, complete reactions, completely bringing it up, rejection of something that my body obviously does not like. That's what I can put it down to. So I'm allergic to anesthetic. And I got through it. I'd had my feed and everything, and I was supposed to stay in for an extra night. Now, this specific extra night that I stayed in, at around about 2 o'clock in the morning, I remember being woken up by a beautiful woman. Long flowing hair, slightly wavy, with a dark navy blue uniform, tight fitting, no real visible seams or anything like that, just looked like a full one piece. Okay, no gloves or anything like that. And she was standing right beside my bed. I woke up to her. And I remember her basically, well, not saying to me, I remember it being telepathically in my head. I could hear her in my head saying, "There's no need to be afraid. I'm here for you. I have something for you that will help you heal." And she handed me what looked like, what I refer to in my mind as what looked like these little Weight Watchers ice creams that you used to get. Little bricks about this big, about that high, by about probably that wide, by about this long. Okay? They come wrapped up in paper. That's what they look like, little Weight Watchers ice creams, because my nana used to eat them when I was in Cooma. Okay? And every now and again I'd sneak one. But I remember this specific substance that looked like ice cream being given to me, but it wasn't cold. Not to the touch and not to the taste, not going down the throat either. It felt like bubbles of air going down. And I remember feeling really, wow, as a kid, like I'm like, what is this? And then I don't remember after that going back to sleep. But I do remember the nurses the next morning. All of a sudden, I was aware of the fact that nurses and matrons had a difference in hats. The uniforms were the same, the dresses, the stockings, the shoes were all the same fundamentally. They all had the same little hanging watch from their lapel on their collar, okay? But the matrons wore big hats that came down, okay? And the nurses wore little hats that were bobby pins to their hair. Okay? And matrons wore big ones, bobby pins to their hair. But when the matrons would come and see me and take my food away, not take my food, take my observations and walk away, I noticed as they were walking away that their hat from the back looked like the Superman outside border of the symbol of hope. Yeah. Something I instantly picked up on straight away, I noticed. And as a kid, as an adult now, looking back on it, I know that I was onto it from the moment the next morning. And I was like, wow, that looks like a Superman symbol. But just little things like that. But I had actually forgotten the experience the night before. It wasn't until I was in my late or mid-30s that I remembered this from listening to James. Because James was visited by a very similar woman who gave him the same ice cream-like substance that looked like a little brick, like Weight Watchers ice cream, but it wasn't cold to the touch to him, wasn't cold to taste. Okay, it wasn't cold going down. It tasted like bubbles to him, bubbles of air. That's what he described. And I was like, instantly, my hair went up on my head, my arms. I was like, this just, wow, described what I experienced. Whoa, I just remembered, wow. And so it all came like flash back, hitting me like one after the other. And I was like, wow, I experienced that too. Now, funnily enough, as you know, Whistleblower Bob has been with me for a little while now. We met through Carl Liebold and the Voice of Freedom, and we've maintained a beautiful friendship and grown over time. And as we've grown to trust each other, we've learned to trust each other with our experiences and share those experiences with each other. And when I told him of this, up until that point, he had no knowledge of my experience, okay? But when I told him this is when he turned around and actually told me his experience. And he had a very similar experience over in New Zealand when he was a kid, when he had tonsils being taken out for an operation. He had excessive bleeding as well. Now, instead of me actually telling you from his experience and remembering for him, I'm going to play for you Whistleblower Bob's actual voice so you can hear for yourselves in his words from his experience what he had and who he describes visited him at roughly 2 or 3 in the morning, and the substance in which he gave him, which is slightly varied from what we experienced, James and myself, but fundamentally did the same thing. It healed him. So here you go, everyone. Have a listen to this, and we'll get back to it in a sec. There you go, guys. I do apologize about the mute there for a second. I don't know what happened. There was like a 2-second mute there towards the end. But at least we got the testimony in, right? That's what matters. So as you heard it from Whistleblower Bob's voice, from his own words, he had a very similar experience to myself and James Gilliland. Same description of uniform, same description of woman, roughly 5'10". Okay, very similar substance, did the same sort of thing. Okay, it healed him overnight. His adenoids and his tonsils were healed to a point where he was eating ice cream, he was eating jelly the next morning, no problem at all. Where most people have problems with that. But by the time he actually got home, later on, he actually has divulged to me in another conversation that he was eating other normal things as well. So, yeah, healing substance. Very curious that we've had the encounter with the same woman. 2 different continents, didn't know each other either. Okay, as children, myself and Whistleblower Bob, myself and him only just met each other just over a year ago through Voice of Freedom. We had no knowledge of each other prior to this or our experiences until I divulged my experience to him in conversation one day. So it just further validates that there are others that are having these experiences around the world. Now, remember as well, I was saying that in this particular house that I lived in at Penrith, because we're still not quite on Akuma yet. I do apologise about that because we jumped ahead too, remember? I do remember saying to you earlier that I had a sand pit in the backyard that I also remember seeing coming over the fence in the flying, floating red fire truck. Now, in the specific sand pit, I used to play with my toys. I used to play with Star Wars figurines, my cars, always sitting there, mucking around, having a good old time in my own little creative world. Okay? But I'd always be sitting there singing. Now, funnily enough, I was always singing this one specific song over and over to myself. And I'd always be singing. Enkidu, 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 enkidu. That's what I always sing. And if it wasn't that one, I'd always be singing the same sort of tune, but with a different name. And then when I'd see a plane going over the head, I'd be yelling out at the sky, "Come back! You forgot me!" I'd be sitting there screaming out. Mum would always be saying to me, "You always used to be screaming out at the sky, Chris, when you were young." She got photos of it and everything, of me screaming out at the sky, saying these things. Now, funnily enough, is that when I turned about 38, 39, which is, about 11, 12 years ago now, okay, because I just turned 50 this month, I discovered through my journeys of going through ancient exo-archaeology, forbidden taboo stuff that doesn't fit the narrative of what the mainstream try to push, especially with high school. I've rediscovered something that I was taught in high school that I completely forgot. And I've got to say, if Miss Jacobs is out there and you find this channel and you hear me, thank you, love, for putting me on to Sumer, ancient Mesopotamia, in grade 8 and grade 8, because I've got to skip grade 9, straight to grade 10. Yeah. But you done some wonders. You put me on a path that I came back to after coming full circle. And I've got to say, Miss Jacobs, if you hear this, thank you. Bless you. I came back to Sumer through my journey of archaeology and wanting to know the truth. And I discovered the Atrahasis and the Enuma Elish, the true original writings from Sumeria, ancient Mesopotamia, which were written in cuneiform on over 30,000 tablets that were found by James Morehand back in 1913. Now, funnily enough, through this re-education of myself, I found that there was a name amongst these writings that opened my heart and my mind to the whole beautiful new possibility of who I am as a being and as a human, and who I was, and what I'm also heading to because of what I'm seeing in my path unfold now as an adult. And I'll be referring from past to present quite a lot during these 4-part series that I'm doing of my life. So I hope you can keep up with that, please. Okay. But what I saw in these writings was the name Ea, Prince Ea, or Enki. Now, this is not the specific name that I was saying, Ea Enkidu, but the name is very similar. Now, through the readings of the Sumerian cuneiform texts and a lot of research and listening time of videos as well, I found cross-references between the videos and things that I'd read that there is an actual being called Enkidu, Ea Enkidu. And it turns out that he was the person in charge of transporting and shipping of gold from Earth to Ea Enki's ship, the Nibiru. So I ask every one of you, if you can leave some comments in the section below, what is a 5-year-old 45 years ago sitting in a sand pit, playing with his toys, playing with cars, playing with Star Wars figurines, and whatever else, in his own little world of imagination, sitting there, singing to an individual that hasn't existed on the planet for over 450,000 years? Because that's how long ago these tablets were originally written in ancient Mesopotamia, 450,000 years ago. These are beings that lived and breathed on this planet at a time in our history that actually does not apparently fit the narrative of today's mainstream. You know why? Because they don't want us to know our truths. Now, I'm going to show you a picture, okay, in a minute. Back in 2012, roughly the end of 2012 going into 2013, about 10 years ago, I saw come to me the words flash in, like, you know how you get them. I don't know if any of you have ever experienced this, but I have had what they call the movie screens drop down in your eye, in front of your eyes, where you can see stuff happening in fast forward, or, you know, of either events to happen or things that have happened. Okay. And I saw the words Eridu flash in my eyes, back, Eridu, Eridu, Eridu. Now, mind you, everyone, I want to let you know right now that back in 2012, 13, I was not computer savvy, had no interest in using computers, had no interest whatsoever in using them whatsoever, or having any knowledge of what they do or watching anything on them. I was, you know, computer literate, if you will. Okay. And funnily enough, one of my mates owned a computer, and I went over there one day just having a coffee with him, sitting down just talking, you know, shit as you do as blokes. I said, mate, can I have a go at your computer thing there, mate? He called it a computer thingy. He goes, computer thingy? What's that? He goes, you mean computer? And I was like, yeah, that thing. He goes, what do you want it for? And I said, well, I want you to pull up that Google thing. And I said, you got Google? And he goes, yeah, I've got the internet. I said, okay, can you pull up Google for me and just type in the word Eridu? He goes, yeah, sure, all right. He pulls it up. Google come up straight away, and he says, how do you spell it? I said, E-R-I-D-U. Eridu. I typed it in, E-R-I-D-U, enter. 715,000 hits straight up, bang. I'm like, what the hell is this? Sumer, ancient Mesopotamia, the first city. And then I look at the photos and I'm like, my God, this looks like an ancient city that's been decimated by wind, rain, weathering, but possibly also battle. Now, this is a photo. What I'm going to show you right now is a photo of Eridu in its present day. This is Eridu in the ancient deserts of what is now known as Iraq, but known as ancient Mesopotamia. Okay. Now, this does not look much, but you can see clearly here there is a slant to the right of the actual picture, an incline, okay, which would be reminiscent of a stairway or walkway up to what looks like steps of some sort, which looks like a building. Okay. Now, this looks also very reminiscent of the building or ziggurat, if you will, from what is now known as Iraq, or the ancient city of Ur, spelt as U-R, Okay. This specific ziggurat has very similar features to the ziggurat of Ur. Okay, this is just far more older, from a far more ancient period of time. Now, this is from 450,000 years ago, so you can look at it and can see that there's quite a lot of weathering done to it over time. Okay, now what I'm about to show you is an artist's interpretation of what Eridu looked like. On the top picture here, you'll see. Okay, that's an artist's interpretation on the top picture, and the bottom picture is the remnants of Eridu today. Okay, so Eridu, as you can see, is very old. It's from a time in our history that does not fit their narrative, because they do not want us to know our true lineage and connections to the stars. Now, I'll get into this in another video at another time, but this is where the modern Judeo-Christian Bible, or Catholicism and everything, and all the other religious factions were derived from in order to create that book that so many Catholics and Christians hold on to around the world and clutch so dearly for dear life. It was a jumbled up set of texts that were written and originally derived from the Sumerian cuneiform texts describing all the original stories that are put in the Bible, but in their original form, with their original names, and all the extra goodies that has been edited and redacted by the Catholic Church. This city alone was the first city. Okay, Eridu was one of the first cities in the cradle of civilization, known as Sumer, ancient Iraq today, or what was known as ancient Iraq, ancient Sumer. Okay, and this is where the Genesis stories all began. Okay, and hence a lot more information that I'll include in another video at a later date. Now, recently, a friend of mine also, I won't name her on camera because she didn't want to be named on camera. She's asked me not to, but I respect that. Bless you. Went for a reading. Okay, and she asked me if, because she went for a reading with a very well-known psychic and reader and healer practitioner. I'll say her name. Her name is Amanda, that particular practitioner. Okay. And my friend asked me, would you like me to take a couple of questions with me to ask her when I have my reading? And I was like, wow, yeah, sure. So anyway, I got a couple of questions together. I won't specifically show all of what it is there, because there's a couple of things about my daughter that's there as well. Well, then again, I could show it because really I got nothing to really hide. But this all comes from source, and this little woman is very highly accurate with her other clients that she's had, including my friend. Okay, Amanda has been very successful with her practices, okay, and getting positive results. Okay, but this specific photo that I'm about to show you now is a set of questions that were asked during this time. Okay, and you can see here, Christopher, what are his spiritual gifts, connections? He can see, he's a medium, that he travels. There are 7 stars in the Pleiades. What star system in the Pleiades is he from? Answer, the 3rd one. Atlas? Yes. Was he in Eridu? Now, unfortunately, my friend at the time didn't know the spelling of Eridu, but still, the pronunciation is correct, and the question was there with intention. Answer, yes, he has memory of it. Now, this comes from a woman that I don't even know nor have ever met. Okay, but this woman's tapped into source, and she's given honest answers from her connection. She asks here also, was Enki the consciousness that encompassed Jesus, the physical body? Yes. Now, I believe that is a true statement, as he had, like, Jesus was a real person, yes. But he knew he was the son of the Father, the one and the whole. He was from the Father. He did not fear. You know, did Enki use Jesus' avatar, the body, to bring to bring the oath of the new covenant of brotherly, sisterly love, etc., etc.? Yes. So here is an absolute confirmation. Was he at Eridu? Yes, he has memory of it. The fact that my soul itself comes from Atlas in the Pleiades star system. This is all information that's come from a woman that had very little information on me and didn't know that I had memory of my experiences from Eridu, because I have had flash images come back to me now of my time in Eridu. And I remember the terraced gardens. I remember the beauty of wonder and awe that was all around us. And it wasn't as desert-like as it was in the pictures that I've shown you here. You can see clearly in the upper picture, there is quite a sprawling oasis and moats surrounding the actual middle temple, and everyone lived around it. And this is the house of Enki, house of Ea. So, as I said earlier, I ask everyone, leave your comments below if you can, and let me know what your thoughts are in relation to why a 5-year-old is singing to Ea Enkidu, person in charge of shipment of gold from Earth and transporting it to Nibiru, which is Enki's ship, the Nibiru. And how is it that I have a connection to Eridu? And why is it that I'm singing to Ea and Hermes Trismegistus? Because we all know who Hermes Trismegistus is as well now. And if you haven't, please, I ask you, I'll actually try and look up a couple of things. I might even leave it in the link in the description below, okay? About Hermes Trismegistus and his connections to Thoth, or Thoth, if you want to pronounce it that way, Thoth, and the Emerald Tablets, okay? So that's just, a curious thing, about my life. Here I am being confirmed by a lady that doesn't know me, about my life and my memories of Eridu from 2 states away. Yeah, quite amazing. Now I'm going to show you a photo of an artist's interpretation of Enki. Now what I'm going to show you here is also something that will kind of blow you away, this artist's interpretation. This is also provided to us by the beautiful Elena Danaán, this picture. I hope and thank you, or I'd like to say thank you to you, Elena, for sharing these photos. And I hope and pray and hope you understand that I'm also using this photo for the purposes of getting the knowledge and wisdom and information out to the masses about Enki's return and how he is prominently, if you will, our father. Because this, to me, is very special. It hits to home here. I have obviously been in the presence of Enki in my past, and Enkidu, the transporter in charge of gold shipment. And I've been obviously in the presence of Hermes Trismegistus. I was singing as a child, whilst tapped into my intuitive nature at that point in time. I was tuned in to my higher self, and I was singing to people that haven't existed on this planet for thousands, hundreds of thousands of years. I was singing from genetic memory. It's beautiful. And I've actually had, I would like to actually, I would have loved to have provided those. I should have put that in the presentation right now. I wish I had have. But I've actually got some photos. I'll put them up in the next presentation, part 2. Just before we start part 2, I'll show you next time, of my confirmation from Elena during a live that she did, where she was in the live chat and the pre-recorded was playing, and I got to actually ask her tell her about my experiences and memory recall of Eridu. And she responded on screen, where I've gotten screenshots of her responses saying that I obviously have memory of it if I am to be able to recite these things. And so I'm going to share those photos with you. And I just thank Elena for everything that her and all of that are connected to her, Danny Henderson, Jean-Charles Moyen, Tony Rodriguez, Dr. Salla. Oh my gosh, just all the beautiful souls. Karina Pataki, and everyone that I've been learning so much from recently in the last you know, couple of years, especially since Elena's busted on the scene, and really has a lot of irrefutable proof. For all of you that don't know Elena, I'll be leaving her link down below, as well as Dr. Salla's. So you can go check out their channels and their respective websites as well, so you can stay up to date with the latest of information. I'll also provide Dr. Salla's, I think it's Twitter, X, I should say, X, it's now known as. Okay, I'll be providing all the links for those in the description below for you to go follow them. Okay, but yeah, I just kind of ask everyone, this picture I'm about to show you, look at it with discernment, because the shape of Enki's skull is very similar and very familiar to what we know as the Paracas skulls that have been found in Malta and all other places around the planet. Okay, these skulls come from beings that are roughly 6 to 8, 7 to 8 feet, some of them 10 feet tall. Okay, they have elongated skulls that have no binding sutures in their skull. Okay, where the cranial points come together and they leave that joining of the sutures. These beings are born specifically without them, which means it doesn't mean that they've had head binding of any way, of any sort, okay? Because you'd be able to see the binding wraps where they've indented the softness of the actual skull bone whilst it was still malleable. We've seen this in African infants, okay? These beings are born with their skulls as elongated, okay? They are specifically, that is their genetic design. That is who they are. So I look at Enki and I look at him and I think to myself, look no different, human like us. We look like you, if anything. Just a digressed version, I suppose. But you can still see in some cultures around the planet, still to this day, the slight elongation of heads naturally recurring now after God knows how long. Some people are being naturally born with this elongation now. Okay. But I'm going to show you Enki, and I also want to read for you what he has put up here. Okay. Love is the binding force of the universe and the greatest power. Never hold resentment in your heart. Be the alchemist of your own creation. Transmute your pain into compassion, and you will see that the universe around you will change as you never believed it could. Ea. Now this is Ea. As you can see, he has a slight elongation to his head. Okay. Now, I do believe that those that were here thousands of years ago probably had a lot higher, longer, elongated head. But as evolution goes, we all evolve, yes? Yes. Well, I do believe that we have evolved as they do, and their heads are no longer as elongated as they used to be, but they are now more like that, as you just saw. And Ea's wisdom, love, and knowledge is so profound that it smashes you right in the heart when you hear these words. I know full well that I have read the texts of Ea from Sumer, the Moorhen collection, the cuneiform texts, and it is unlike anything I've ever read. So I highly recommend anyone, please go read the Enuma Elish and the Adrahasis. I'll leave a link for Bo's Mysteries YouTube channel so that you can possibly go listen and have visuals, listening to the Moorhen collection being spoken back and narrated in English that had been translated from cuneiform Sumerian. I think it was back in actually 2012 they were handed over from the Rothschilds' private collection. Yes, you heard it right. They remained in the Rothschilds' private collection from 1913 to 2012, and since then have been translated to English and have been put up on YouTube for you to enjoy. So I'll leave a link for Bo's Mysteries as well. So this, for me, everyone, has been a very, very beautiful journey just to share with you this morning this information of my experiences, sharing with you what I have gained as knowledge from these experiences, the wisdom that I've gained from these experiences, the interactions. I'm hoping that any of you out there have also had very similar experiences yourselves, please leave your comments below. I'd love to hear them. If you would love to get in contact with me and maybe even talk about these things and even maybe talk on the show, possibly come and talk with me and actually present your story to the audience. We'd love to hear from you. I'll leave a link below for the email for Starseeds and Patriots of Down Under. Okay, but I've just got to say, this has been a wonderful experience for me to share this information with you from my birth right up to my first 7 years. I will get onto Kuma, which I did move on to at one stage in the next video, and we'll go from there. But just one other slide that I'd like to quickly just share with you before I go, because I have been touching nearly now on 2 hours, okay, is this picture here. It is written in Latin, and I will actually translate this for you. Okay, this is ad astra per aspera. Through adversity and struggle, we reach for the stars. So I hope everyone not even on screen. Where am I? There we go. Hello. Okay, just a quick list for you. I'll be covering V for Victory, TV series from the 1980s, which covers organ harvesting, human trafficking, humans for food, draining of resources, all done by, guess what? You guessed it, Draco reptilians, visiting and posing as humans. 1980s TV series I grew up with in primary school. A lot of you will probably be very familiar with it, but I've got a lot of slides and I've got a lot of things put together for it, video footage as well. Star Trek Discovery and Strange New Worlds. How much does it have bearing on where we are up to date with technology with our SSP, Secret Space Program? Transformers, The Last Night, The Abyss. Yes, movies. How much bearing and truth is in plain sight in relation to space arcs in the Atlantic Ocean and Arctic Ocean, sorry, Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. Pacific Oceans, not specific, Pacific Oceans. Okay. Cocoon, the movie. Antareans, they are real. How much does it have a role in our future, this movie? I'll be going right into that. You know, the offer that was given to the elderly at the end of that movie. Beautiful. That movie, I was only 9 years old when I saw that. And I can tell you that movie I've got on DVD. And mate, they were my grandparents. You know, Jessica Tandy, Kim Cronin, yeah, Wilfred Brimley. Yeah, they were all my grandparents growing up. They were the people, because my grandparents died when I was very young. So I had to look up to other role models growing up, and I took those role models from movies like Cocoon. And those elderly there were the people that I took great wisdom from as a child, and I've incorporated that to myself today. The movie The Final Countdown. How much does it have a connection with the Philadelphia experiment and Tesla technology? In the movie Final Countdown, I found a Q post in the movie on a specific clock with a certain timestamp. In that movie was done in 1981. That's before I found the Stargate Q post in the movie as well. The Q post in the Stargate movie. Yeah, very curious. My video, they don't like me talking about this sort of stuff. I just lost video just then, so I better watch what I say. Anyway, Jupiter Ascending is another movie. We all know what's in that. Flash Gordon, weather control from space. Alien movie franchise. Prometheus, Covenant, Alien and Aliens. H.R. Geiger, the Xenomorph, alien connections to Enlil, Enki's brother. Okay, hybridization and genetics manipulations of a new species. Yep, tell truth in plain sight. The Species movie, hybridization of extraterrestrial DNA with human DNA on Earth in hybridization programs in underground facilities. The Never-Ending Story. Yeah, okay, I'm going to go into that one. Yeah, that'd be a really good one to get into. But anyway, for the time being, people, I've been talking for nearly 2 hours now, so I'm going to end it there. And I just want to say thank you all for joining me today for the first part of my experiences, my journey, and going on record. And I'm just grateful for you all being here and putting up with me for nearly 2 hours and waffling on. But it's time to go. I've got a lot to do, and it's time to get to it. So in saying that, everyone, take care until next time. And remember, everyone, unlearn and discern and teach as we go. Love yous. Take care until next time, okay?
You could try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me. Looking for change, looking for pain, pulling a mob, pushing a train. I'll never stop, stick to a lane, pick up the pieces and go rearrange. I'll be the best above all the rest, put me to the test and expect nothing less, your check is I'm chest, what's happening next, yeah. He got the venom, a tangible weapon, no coming in second, this life is a lesson. He got a new engine from pain, it's a blessing, new focus, no guessing, just bold and obsession, all in his possession. You got their attention, I'll leave an impression and take your redemption, just kill no discretion, your mind is a weapon, 11-11, it's time for progression, oh.